Hello, and welcome to the Cardinal News of Virginia, a podcast from Cardinal News. We're a nonprofit independent newsroom serving Southwest and Southside Virginia at cardinalnews.org. I'm Lisa Rowan, filling in for Dutchy Jesse. The Cardinal podcast is sponsored by Garland Properties, leasing apartments and commercial spaces in Roanoke, Martinsville, and Pulaski, Virginia. Garland Properties, building healthy communities. Today, we're joined by our executive director, Luanne Rife. Hi, Luanne. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Of course. On this episode, we are taking a moment to celebrate Cardinal News, which turns 4 years old this week. It's amazing and exciting. And on this anniversary, we're looking back at how far we've come and looking to the future as well. So, Luanne, for those who may be newer to Cardinal and not have been following us for this entire 4 years, let's remind our audience why you created Cardinal News back in 2021 and what our mission is.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. I just love talking about Cardinal News. So if you think back to 2021, it was a time where we're coming off, we're still more or less in the pandemic. I had worked at the Roanoke Times for a long time, and some of the original founding people who came with us also did. And we had gone through just so many cuts in what we were able to do. We were going through another major cut that meant that there would no longer be political coverage for this part of the state. Business coverage had been cut back so much. And everywhere you go, everywhere you went, people would say, somebody needs to do something. We really miss good storytelling. We miss good journalism. And so that's what we set out to do, was to we weren't out there initially to replace legacy print. We wanted to have a healthy local news system, but we wanted to tell those important stories of our region. So that people knew what was happening in their communities, had the in-depth reporting around it.
Mm-hmm. And so over the last 4 years, we went from a team of 3. You had yourself, Dwayne Yancey, our founding editor, and Megan came on board. Was she
right? So when we started out, we had some generous support to just get up and get going, right? And so we were able to hire Dwayne as our founding editor. We brought on Megan Schnabel as our business writer, and Marcus Schmidt was covering politics. He was in Richmond. And then we budgeted money for freelance because there's an awful lot of good former reporters in this area, a lot of good freelance writers. But we set out to do 3 different buckets of news, right? So we wanted to cover politics, we wanted to cover business, and then we had this bucket called culture, which is everything about who we are and what we are as people. So that was the original team that quickly grew.
And so now we're at close to 20 people. If you look at the editorial side, we have 10 reporters. We have editors, we have the business side. And so we've gotten considerably larger. And I wonder how that mission has evolved as the size of the staff has grown. How is what we're doing now, 4 years in, different from the approach that you had back in 2021?
Mm-hmm. So by the time we got to the end of, I think it was 2022, right? We had already exceeded the goals that we had set out for 5 years. We were growing. By then, we had brought on Grace in Danville, thanks to the Danville Regional Foundation. I believe we had Susan on board in Bristol, thanks to the Ann and Jean Worrell Foundation. We were looking at bringing on Dean in Martinsville. I'm not sure. Did you join us in 2022? Or
beginning of 2023.
But we started having conversations that we had brought together money to have an education report, which we felt was really important. We had plans for, and we can talk a little bit about this, all these other reporting positions that we've filled or are filling. And we thought to ourselves, okay, we are doing more, even though we're still small. Legacies doing less. They had continued to have cuts in what they were covering, cuts in readership and so on, and while we're growing, and everybody was asking us to do more. They were thinking, oh, that we were bigger than what we were. And so, the board, and we went through the strategic planning process to set the course for Cardinal for the next 3 to 5 years, because we had to take a look and we had to say, okay, we're doing these bigger enterprise in-depth stories, but people are saying we need local coverage. We don't know what's happening with our city councils or our county supervisors or our school boards. And, we feel so out of touch that decisions are already made. So, there was this push, do we become like a hyper local news outlet? There was also this push that, you do such a good job with your region, but there are other rural areas of Virginia, so why don't you just become the news organization for all of rural Virginia? And then there were also others that said, hey, you do politics so well. Why don't you become a statewide paper that just focuses on politics and business? And so we had to take a look at all of these different scenarios and decide. And what we came to the decision is we recommitted to Southwest and Southside Virginia, because we felt that we had so much left to do to provide the type of coverage that's worthy of our communities. But we also saw that in addition to these issue-based stories or these bigger stories, that we needed to find a way to do local news.
Yeah, so even though we're not here to be everything to everyone, there is that pressure to provide that local and regional news that is happening on more than a weekly or monthly basis. This is stuff that's happening all the time, and it's a delicate balance to try to serve our community that is so large in geographic area and has such a diversity of readership, that fitting into those gaps is something that, for me as a reporter, it's been something that has always taken a reevaluation of and a balance over the years. And so it sounds like for the whole organization, you're thinking of, well, how can we do the most with what we have?
That's correct, Lisa. Because you have those conversations daily, right? When you're having your news budget meetings and your daily stand-ups. And so that's one thing I think people might not understand as well, is that you and I are sitting here in Roanoke, where quite a few of us live and quite a few of us work. And we have a little office now, which we didn't have at the beginning. But many of our reporters are remote. They live in the communities they cover, but we've tried to build this culture of, whether it's through, chats and meetups and on Zoom and so on, that build this sense of a newsroom where we're talking about stories. I don't participate in your daily meetings. Maybe I should. No, save myself from that. But I do talk every day with our executive editor, Jeff Schwanner, and he lets me know the bigger projects that everyone's working on and where they're going. And we talk about news stories and news direction, and strategize as to how do we continue to tell the big stories and the little stories, and how do you balance it all out? Because I was a reporter, and I always had this great big long list of topics and stories and things that I wanted to do, and I'd break them out as this is a project. This may take me all year to keep reporting out, and so, but I'm going to keep working on that. These are mid-range things that they're going to take me more than a day to do. They're going to take some time. And then I'd have this list of things that were daily, because sometimes you get involved in a project and you're working in it, and you just need to step back for a moment, clear your mind, and do something that's rather quick, where, it's just, and sometimes, and I would look for something that was sort of fun or interesting, and but that it could be done fast. And so that's our goal, is to have all of you working on all of those types of stories at the same time, because all of you are very talented and creative, and as we go on in time are, getting immersed in your beats. see growth in the reporters and growth in their sourcing and the people that they know, and being able to reach out to all different segments of the community. And I know, like with your reporting, you have sources in the Department of Education, but you also have sources who are students in a school, and everyone in between. And that's what we want to do at Cardinal, is to get to know everyone in different walks and tell their stories.
Yeah, I want to make it clear to those listening that we don't work on the short, medium, and long-term stories always on the same day, sometimes on the same day, but not always. I don't want people to think we're overwhelmed constantly. We're only overwhelmed some of the time.
As is everyone, right? This is just sort of part of the business too, because, everything's deadline driven, right?
Yeah.
So, you had mentioned that we have 20 employees now, 10 reporters, 3 editors, and maybe just quickly say, well, Lisa covers education. So we have what are called place-based reporters. So they're in, I hope I don't forget anybody, Danville, Martinsville, Bristol, Roanoke, and now in Lynchburg.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have issue-based reporters, education, health, technology, business, politics.
Yeah.
And I didn't forget anybody. Yay me. And then what we might want to talk about a little bit is our growth, right?
Yeah.
And so in addition to growing staff, we've grown our products, because we want to be able to create products that deliver the news to people where they are and where they want to get it. We have a huge social presence where we're on all of the social channels, and there's huge growth. And I've challenged the reporters who are used to print stories and, think pieces and 3,000 to 5,000 words that, and I know you hate me saying this, but not everybody is going to read that 5,000 word story, Lisa. But
they should.
Yeah, they should. but they think that's medicine, right? But they want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
They want to know that story. And so how do you take that 5,000 word story and get it out to them in the place where they want to consume it and in the form they want to consume it? Mm-hmm. So, podcasts, right? So
Take it on the go.
Take it on the go. I love this AI, this use of AI that we're doing with this audio, where, there's people who tell me, oh, I just love this because I can listen to your stories while making my coffee. And, here I'm real old school. I like to drink my coffee while I'm reading, but everyone likes something different. People want, it amazes me that people watch podcasts on YouTube rather than just listening to them. So we put it out there. Zach makes little pieces out of there for TikTok because that's all somebody wants to know. They may just want to see your visuals from your story on Instagram, or, something they can comment on Facebook. But everybody knows that story. Yeah. Some people may know more or less, but they have got that opportunity to approach the storytelling in the way they want to, and we open up all these channels. If they want to go deeper, they can. We're here. So we do that. We've also now have grown from our one newsletter to 6 different newsletters, politics, events. People said, hey, everything's always happening and we don't know until it's over. So we do an events calendar, put out weekly, here's what you should do this weekend. We have Kevin Myatt, who does weather, because people just, there's a lot of weather nerds out there, which is fascinating to me as well. We have an app. If people don't like to go to website, people like apps. So we just keep adding things that we feel bring value or service. And that you had me on before to talk about public notices, but I want to promo that again, that we do take public notices from most of the localities within our footprint now. And rather than just sticking them on a website and burying them there and nobody ever seeing them, we brief them in our newsletter so that people actually know that these things are taking place.
So as we've grown and added people, we've added products, we're trying to meet readers where they are and try to serve them in a variety of ways to meet their needs. That all takes money. And we're in a season where, Q4 for a lot of nonprofits out there is like go time for fundraising. So we right now are fundraising as a part of our birthday campaign that we have every year. And then towards the end of the year, I'm sure we'll be involved in Giving Tuesday and other end of year campaigns. And I want to talk about why that fundraising is so important. And of course, as a nonprofit, it's sort of baked into our business plan, right? Is that this is something we're going to do. But everyone is a part of the fundraising effort here. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about why that's so important for everyone to have sort of that buy-in into our fundraising efforts.
So I think maybe it might be helpful for people to understand where we get our money, right? So as I said, when we first started out, we had some generous gifts. We had $300,000 committed for each year. Well, that doesn't get you very far, right? I mean, that's a great.
Start.
I mean, it was a start.
Yeah.
We were very fortunate, and up until this point in time, I want to say that most of the money that we have raised has come from Virginia. We have gotten a few grants from, some organizations, but in the great big scheme of our budget, most of the money we had so far has come from Virginia. So what does that look like? And so we have some local foundations that support specific reporting positions. We talked about that, Danville, Martinsville, Bristol. This year and so how else are we going to raise money? So we felt that it's really important that we keep everything that we do. We keep the journalism available to everyone. We know that we're serving a lot of people who can't afford to buy a subscription. As much as they want to stay informed, they can't. But we do ask that members of our audience who are able to support us, that they do. Because having what the industry calls reader revenue, that's revenue, small dollars, right? And I want to say every gift is meaningful and important to us, no matter how small, because it just shows that someone's supporting us, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But what we have really come to ask people, and they'll see this in our campaigns that we'll be doing around our birthday and that we'll be doing around end of year, is that we ask you to become a member. And by becoming a member, you're making a commitment of, maybe, however much you can afford a month to support us, or maybe it's annual, maybe you prefer it that way. You think about all of those memberships or subscription services that you have, if you bother to look at your credit card and go, oh, wow. But, you think like we're not asking you to give us any more than that you do to Netflix or to Amazon or to Hulu or whoever it is that you turn to. And, that you want them to be there when you want them. Right? We realize that we've got people who read everything that we put and every word, but we know that some readers may only want to read us once a week or come for certain stories, but they want us to be there. And I think the more successful we are and the longer we're around, I think people start losing that sense of there was this big hole, this big dearth of storytelling. But without their support, that could very much happen again. And so that's why we ask, help us support the journalism, because it all stays here, it all stays local, it all supports the storytelling.
Yeah. People like me sitting here being very grateful for small and large dollars. And it is something that, I know we've talked about, sometimes it feels like we're always asking for money, and the business side is always asking the editorial side, like, help us raise money by, making people aware. And I have come to realize the importance of that. And as a small organization, we are the face of the reporting and the journalism that we're putting out, right? So showing people who might not have become a member yet the value of what it is they appreciate, I think that really goes far to sort of make the sale, so to speak. It's a terrible term to use, but I think there's a connection there.
Yeah, and I don't think it's make the sale, Lisa. I think it's just building these relationships and showing your gratitude, right? That's generally what we ask you to do. And if you step back a minute into what was happening before in newspapers, is that reporters were walled off. They didn't really understand, or unless they wanted to, anything about the business side of newspapers. And some of them were, quite frankly, surprised about all of the cuts because they didn't notice that, hey, this is there's fewer people, there's a circulations are falling, the classifieds have gone, there's no display ads. I mean, you're covering the closure of big box stories. Well, that was revenue, right? And that was supporting the jobs. And so there was this disconnect. And at the same time, when you don't know, then you're always concerned. You're always worried. You're worried about your job. You saw all these cuts, and you kept wondering, like, when are they going to tell me to pack my box? Mm-hmm. And that was one thing right from the beginning, is that we wanted our journalists to be thinking about the storytelling, to be thinking about their stories, to be thinking about how they could grow their beat, grow their relationships with their audiences. And we didn't want them worried and thinking, hey, is she going to come and say, Lisa, we no longer need an education reporter, right? And so we want you to know where the money comes from. And we hope that, you're always grateful for readers of your story, right? And so you're also grateful for the readers who contribute to help you continue your storytelling. Right. So, and then I think everyone likes to be thanked, right?
Everyone.
And so that's why we say, please, if you feel comfortable, right? But we don't ask you to go out and raise money because that would get things a little more complicated.
Yeah. I get letters from readers sometimes, and they'll just email me about an article. They'll have a question or a compliment. And the first thing I say back is, thank you so much for reading and for taking the time to write, because without those eyeballs, what are we all doing it for, right? And so that's at the heart of it, is making sure we're there for readers and providing information. And if people are able to support us, that's a bonus. But, our commitment to paywall free is pretty fabulous.
Right. And one of the things I want to say about the membership program that Dutchie Jesse created and manages very well is that we wanted people who make that commitment to us, that we're going to be here for you. We're going to help you at the level that we can, and to show that we really appreciate that, and thank them that every week our members get a reporter's notebook. And so our reporters rotate in on a schedule like once every 10 weeks or so. You hear from them about sort of the backstory of their reporting, or what they went through to get a story, or how they develop a source, or, the difficulty when you have to find translation services, or getting to know new places, all of these things that they're sharing with our members. And then another benefit that we just started is that our members get it. One day early access to these podcasts, which I think is pretty cool too.
I know. Everyone likes to feel like they're in on an exclusive situation.
And we also have member-only Zooms. So we have one coming this Thursday where Harry Wilson from Rowan College, his name might be familiar because is he the director of polling? Is that his title? I don't want to get that wrong. But he runs the polling, the political polling that they do. And, that gets confusing to people, right? Yeah. Because Rowan College will come out with their poll and they'll say, candidate A is ahead by 10 points. And then someone else comes out with one and says this, that, and the other thing. And so sometimes it's conflicting information, or it doesn't all match up. And people are like, what does that mean? So Harry's going to come in on Thursday and talk to our members about the things one should look at in viewing a poll, so that should. But I'm saying that's Thursday and that's tomorrow for us. But
Well, if you
But there's
missed it,
there's always member-only Zooms coming up.
stay tuned for the next one. You never know what's going to be on the calendar. Stay tuned. And speaking of staying tuned, talk to us just for a moment about what's next for Cardinal News. Give us just a little hint as we wrap up today.
Oh, boy. Okay.
I know, no
I will
pressure.
do that, but I wanted to throw some numbers out at you too on
What do
this.
you got?
So we were talking about, where have we gone,
Yeah.
right? So we had that one newsletter, one website, one editor, and 2 reporters. And so we talked a little bit about staffing, but in the past 4 years, we've published 7,000 stories.
Ooh.
We have between 200 and 300,000 readers to our website every month. We have 35,000 newsletter subscribers, 5,000 donors, and hundreds of business sponsors. And I just want to say, it just amazes me.
Yeah.
What this community has helped to build and will continue to build. So what comes next, right?
Yeah.
So right from the start, I have this piece of paper tacked onto my monitor at home that has all of these reporting positions and all of these different things that I want, right? And we've just check with a lot of them. One thing that we hadn't checked off is New River Valley. Oh, there are other things we haven't checked off, but the New River Valley, where so many people live, and it's just such an interesting place, and we don't have a place-based reporter there. And we hadn't found, we hadn't yet been able to put together the money to hire somebody and say, you have a job today and tomorrow, right? And so we had put in for a grant through Google News Initiative. It's the first that they're offering these growth catalyst grants for expansion projects. And there were hundreds of organizations across the country that applied for them, and we were one of 14 to get a grant. So for we're building out a project with the Virginia Tech and Radford's communication schools and others in both universities to involve student journalists in helping us build out a framework for local news. And then on the development side, we're going to be out there raising money, trying to get support locally so that we can hire an editor, hire a reporter, and build something very different in the New River Valley than what we have in other places. And if we're successful in building that out, we also are looking at the other zones within our region, such as far southwest, where we have Susan trying to cover this huge territory, right? And so but there's different resources and different challenges in each of these places of our coverage. So we're looking at each of these zones and seeing how can we meet what we're being called to do in each of those places.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, our readers and listeners and viewers already have so many ways to engage with Cardinal News. It sounds like they'll have even more in the near future, so that's exciting. And Luanne, happy anniversary, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Lisa.
And thank you for listening to the Cardinal News of Virginia. Thanks to our sponsor, Garland Properties, and also to Sean Eddy of Eddy Alexander for production support. And as always, to our very own Cardinal News' Zach Shelton. Read all of our paywall-free local news coverage at cardinalnews.org. I'm Lisa Rowan.